Everyone in Pittsburgh knows that we made steel for decades, and that legacy is still a living part of who we are now. But there aren't a lot of examples left of how all that history was forged. With the Carey blast furnaces, you can literally stand in the shadow of what was once cutting-edge technology. Rivers of Steel offers tours of this important national historic landmark, and they explain how we made iron, introduce you to the people, the workers who made it possible, and share more about the culture that sprang up to support them. Plus, they've got a special spotlight right now on how the Great Migration shaped its workforce. Learn more and book a tour at riversofsteel.com/tours. Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, it's been 90 degrees or above for days now, but only a fraction of the city's water fountains are actually turned on. And y'all, we are blown away by the reason. A popular autumnal attraction won't be opening this year, and we've got an update on the push to legalize cannabis in Pennsylvania. It's June 21st, the Friday News Roundup. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. I'm with CityCast producers Mallory Falk and Sophia Lo. Good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I know it's been so hot, but yesterday was the official start of summer, the solstice. I'm wondering if either of you do anything special for it.
I mean, it's already felt like summer for a while to me, but I guess to mark the official start, I might take a dip in my neighborhood pool since, pools just opened for the season here in Pittsburgh.
I can't believe you haven't already.
I was out of town. That's the only reason why.
Sophia, what about you?
I'm planning to go to Apteca tonight because that feels kind of summer solstice-y or midsummery. That's officially on Monday. I wanted to do some kind of bonfire, but no one is letting me play with matches. But maybe that's for the best since I'm already hot and bothered and a fire would make it worse.
Yeah, I don't think this is like the moment. I love a cleansing fire, but usually the fall equinox is a good moment for that, Mallory, I know you were out of town, obviously. We feel your absence acutely every time. Did you at least manage to escape part of the heat wave that we've been getting?
Unfortunately, I did not. I was in D.C., which also got hit. We had some plans to check out the Arboretum, and we quickly abandoned those plans when we saw how hot it was going to be and just gravitated toward the air conditioning.
I'm so sad for you. It is really one of my favorites. I just went to the most gorgeous wedding there.
Thanks for rubbing it in.
But I am glad that you at least missed the storms that we got in the early part of the week. So many trees got knocked over, so many people without power. And in all parts of the county, it just went on for days and days.
Yeah, I mean, an air conditioning is required in this heat, so that is just not acceptable.
Right? At some point on Monday night, I checked Duquesne's light outage map just because that's what company I have. I wanted to see if the outage was coming for me.
Yeah.
Luckily, I wasn't affected, but, when I checked on that time, it said that over 80,000 people were experiencing some sort of power loss.
Yeah, I was watching First Energy just because I have family members that use that, and they were out of town. It looked like a Christmas tree. Like they had these little multicolored dots all over the map. 5 and 10 customers here, 1,000 customers there. I'm sure Penn Power looked pretty similar. I think we only lost power for 5-ish hours. It was enough to be annoying, but not enough to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But Kevin Gavin, who's been writing the Hey Pittsburgh newsletter lately, he went a couple of days without power. I mean, it did benefit. He brought me his frozen chicken because he had to empty his freezer really fast. But I'm still so sad. Gosh, it's too warm for that.
It really is. Yeah, my power just flickered a little bit. I am very grateful that I am close to a hospital, so I think that sort of helps with my power grid situation.
Absolutely. I'm sure a lot of people are still getting things fixed up all over our region, especially if you lost any trees. I've been thinking all week, the tree service people must be doing just amazing business right now. But I hope that everyone listening at least has their power back, that you had a safe space to go in the interim. Shout out especially to the city's cooling centers, which got opened up really just in time this year.
Right. Those cooling centers, they are still open today. We'll drop a link in the show notes with hours and locations in case that's something you need.
But one thing that might be harder to access right now is our city water fountains, because most of them, it turns out, are not actually on yet. I can't believe the reason, though. We have one plumber for the entire city of Pittsburgh.
Wild.
What?
I was shocked to learn this too. This is one single person who is responsible for all of the city water fountains. There are more than 200 that need to be turned on, plus just all of the city's other water needs.
Right. That is such a big job. That's way more than one person. Why can't the city just hire more plumbers?
I mean, I think we're supposed to have 3, but even that number seems like not enough, not even close to enough. City Councilor Bobby Wilson told WESA that part of the issue is, once again, low pay.
Isn't it always?
This is just a constant, local government problem, I know, but plumbing at a private company can pay bank. So, I get why you wouldn't want to do that. I have cousins who are plumbers, and they have the nicest house in the family. But yeah, the job opening on the city's website shows that you make just over $30 an hour. That doesn't seem like a lot.
Yeah, and it's definitely less than other rates. I saw that Olga George, a spokesperson for the city, told the Washington Post that the city just pays less than private plumbing companies, which pay $35 or more an hour. So like you said, Megan, hard to imagine going for a city job when you can earn more elsewhere.
Exactly.
That makes so much sense. I saw that city council, though, quickly passed some legislation so that the city could work with other parties like the county, Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority, and, the school districts to hire other plumbers and then pay them overtime. Did either of you see the timeline for that, for, when they expect all the water fountains to be turned on again?
Yeah, I saw that Councilman Wilson told KDKA he thought the city could get the fountains up and running in 2 weeks, and that was a week ago. But I'm not sure how that's going to go because the Washington Post reported that only 35 fountains have been turned on as of Wednesday. So there are still many to go.
Oh, wow. That is a lot of fountains to get done in 1 week. So I guess we'll wait and see. One thing I found interesting from WESA, though, is that, I thought turning on the water fountains was just switching on some sort of valve or, literal switch.
I did not think that.
Okay, I just don't know how plumbing works. But it's a lot more complicated than that. Some of the water fountains have parts that get taken out in the winter and then need to be reinstalled now. So it really is important to have plumbers full-time with the city who are actually familiar with all of these systems.
I mean, maybe I don't want to be too facetious about it, but we could also update the technology, so it doesn't have to be so time and labor intensive every single season. This is a repeatable problem. Maybe it's cost prohibitive. I have no idea what a water fountain costs, let alone one that sits outdoors a lot of the time. It just feels so wasteful.
When pipes freeze.
Yeah, it just feels so wasteful, but I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about either.
I agree. It sounds wasteful to me. And, according to that Washington Post article, it's not like the city was ignoring the fountains, didn't realize that would be an issue. There were just other projects that took priority.
Yeah, this is just a thing that's going to keep happening over and over again because there's so many needs.
Right. This year, opening up the pools, fixing pipes in city buildings. And it just seems like if this is going to keep happening, there has to be a better system than choosing whether you want your pools to be open or your water fountains to be running, especially as we are probably going to see more and more heat waves like this one.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, though, definitely stay prepared. So bring your water bottles if you're going outside.
Did you know there's a speakeasy on Liberty Avenue? Well, we're letting the cat out of the bag, or I guess I should say the rabbit out of the hat, because Liberty Magic is Pittsburgh's premier speakeasy theater, dedicated to the art of elevating magic. And if you've never been, there is a really fun show right now that would be a perfect entry point to what they do best. Magician and comedian Rob Zabrecki has brought his variety show, The Zabrecki Hour, to Pittsburgh, and it is just so wonderfully weird. There's deadpan comedy, song and dance, and his absurd take on mental phenomena, which may involve getting a few of his audience members involved. It is strange in a way you will never forget. The Zabrecki Hour is happening now at Liberty Magic through July 14th, and they even offer a Skeleton Key VIP experience for the best seats and an up-close encounter. You've got to check it out. That's the Zabrecki Hour at Liberty Magic through July 14th. Get your tickets at trustarts.org/magic before they disappear.
Hey CityCast friends, producer Sophia Lo here. I am still checking off all the classic local summer activities. I'm going to Presque Isle for the first time. I've got tickets to a Pirates game where I will be scarfing down a renegade dog with the mini pierogies. I'm so excited. But we also want to hear from you. What's on your Pittsburgh summer bucket list? Tell us and you might hear your answer on the show. You can email us at pittsburgh@citycast.fm, or you could text us or leave us a voicemail. Our phone number is 412-212-8893. That's 412-212-8893. We can't wait to hear from you.
So with all of this talk about heat wave, summer solstice, the pool, it might seem a little odd to turn to some Halloween-related news, but we did just learn that a local favorite will not be returning this year.
It's never too early to talk about Halloween. ScareHouse officially confirmed that they will not be opening this Halloween season. It's a bummer, but I also think all the actors, like the folks in the greater ScareHouse family, have known about this for a while, since I guess they were packing up and breaking down walls like as soon as the season ended last November. This ScareHouse for a long time now has been at Pittsburgh Mills, and I guess it turns out that it was not a good long-term fit.
Yeah, Megan, I know you've got the inside scoop on ScareHouse.
I mean, only a little bit. My dad worked there last year as an actor and just had a ball with it.
And a reminder, an actor, I didn't realize this until you educated me.
Oh, yeah,
These
that's
are
true.
the people who kind of jump out and terrify you.
Yeah, they are the scarers. But yeah, they call them actors. And I get it now, too. So he was sort of a rover. So if anyone took off for a day or a weekend, he would take their spot. So he wore all kinds of different costumes and masks, and he would send the family text thread photos every week of whatever ghoulish makeup they had put him in.
Fun.
It was a complete hoot, and I am very bummed that we will not get that this year.
I've actually never been to ScareHouse. Can you remind me what makes, or I guess made, this whole spot so special?
I mean, I just think it's because it's so immersive. Like, they just have so much attention to detail. It's all really dark, of course. But when you're going through it, like every single inch, including the people, the sets, like floor to ceiling, the music, the ambiance, whether it's smoky or clear or whatever, it's just all so perfectly on theme. And it also goes on for a very long time. So, like, you feel like you're getting your money's worth. And I guess I should say, like, now that I've met some of the folks who work there, some of them for several years now, I have a much deeper appreciation for just how seriously they take this. They really, like, treat it like it's like this live theater performance, but you as the guest are part of the show. They just love what they do, and it's really neat.
I have never been to ScareHouse, and sadly, it sounds like at least this year I'm not going to make it either. But when I was growing up, my friends and I always went to Fright Fest at Station Square. RIP no longer exists. But if you wanted to get chased by someone with a chainsaw, that was the spot back in the early aughts. Dating myself.
Not for me. I like spooky stuff, costumes, candy. So Halloween is great, except for haunted houses, because I like my personal space.
That doesn't surprise me, Sophia.
Yeah, like I have the ScareHouse maybe more for me, but I've been to too many like haunted attractions where people get too close to me and I'm like, absolutely not. But anyway, why is ScareHouse closing, at least for this Halloween season?
So according to Pittsburgh Magazine, which has an article breaking all of this down, it sounds like we can really pin it on two things: the pandemic and the death of the American mall.
Yeah, so ScareHouse used to run out of the old Elks Lodge in Etna, speaking of things that don't exist anymore.
A favorite Pittsburgh pastime.
No, I loved it there too, but it was a lot harder to find parking. And you usually had to wait outside for like a really long time before you got in under shelter. Personally, I really like that because I thought it added to like the effect of it all. Like you're cold, you're tired. The neighborhood, at least that one little part of it, was just felt sort of dank. It was a little eerie feeling at that time of day or night, I guess I should say. But I thought it was great. But then they moved to Pittsburgh Mills Mall over in Tarentum. Just very different vibes going into that space. But I always imagined that they probably had a lot more like literally physical space to work with.
Yeah, I mean, the co-owner, Scott Simmons, told Pittsburgh Magazine that one of the big motivators for moving to Pittsburgh Mills was the ample parking. You've got a whole mall parking lot.
Yeah. Can confirm that is true. Although bad timing on their part because that was in the year of our Lord, 2020.
Oh, no. I'm guessing it was not a big grand opening then.
No, probably not. They had been on hiatus the year before. So according to the article, it was just not a great combination to go a year without making money, then do this big expensive move, and then have a season with low turnout because of a global pandemic. I mean, I don't know about you two, but I certainly was not trying to be indoors in close quarters with other people in October of 2020.
So please don't judge me, but I actually went to ScareHouse during that period too, to their strip district spot, which was where they were doing the other thing that they're known for, their more immersive version called The Basement. Sophia, I cannot imagine anything you would hate more, maybe.
Why?
You have to sign a waiver saying that they can touch you within reason.
No. There's no such thing as within reason for a stranger touching me. No.
Okay, at least they're asking for consent. You've got to give them that.
I'm not saying it's for everybody.
It's a haunted house. It is like the one space that I could see it being reasonable, like with the warning ahead of time.
Way back in the day when I went, this was the Etna location. When I went to, it might have been their first ever version of The Basement. There was a closet that they would put you in on a table and somebody literally climbed on top of you and was grinding. You would hate it.
I think in that situation, they might hate it more because I do know how to get out of a hold and, kind of inflict some pain along the way.
They did ask, like, you went in pairs, and they'd ask some silly question as a prompt, and whoever answered one way would go one way, and the other would go the other. Like, there were ways of asking for consent, even within the boundaries of the performance. Anyway, the year of 2020, it was March 2020, there were no touchies. So it was, like, really, like, everything was different because of the pandemic. We were all masked up. It was weird, but, like always, artistry, second to none.
Okay, well, I'm glad you had a good experience. But like you said, it's not just the pandemic that did ScareHouse in.
Right, because, it did operate as usual for the past few years. But Simmons said it's just not generating as much traffic as they'd expect. And it sounds like the reason is essentially because Pittsburgh Mills is on the decline.
I never saw it in its heyday. Did you, Mallory?
I did because it opened right before I left for college. So some friends and I did this glow-in-the-dark mini golf there as one of our kind of silly last hurrahs before we all parted ways.
That feels late to open for a mall.
I might be wrong here, but in my memory, it was framed as having like more interesting, unique attractions than the average mall. I think that was maybe their selling point back in 2005. Could be completely wrong on that. This is just how I remember it. Mm-hmm. But I actually just looked up that spot, that mini golf course, and it closed down in October 2020. So I guess right around the same time ScareHouse was trying to make its debut, mini golf was on its way out.
Yeah, I think I went to a color run there once, where they like coat you in colored powder as you do a 5K, because that's what you want when you're getting hot and sweaty is to also be coated in powder. And then I've met folks for dinner in the area, but that was never inside the mall. I think my first trip inside there ever was going to a ScareHouse, which honestly, like at that point, told me all I needed to know because there'd be like one business open and then 5 or 6 that were all like shuttered up.
Yeah, and apparently the mall almost had to go to a sheriff's sale last year. So, the same year that you were showing up and it seemed kind of empty. The group that owns it, Namdar Realty Group, I hope I'm saying that correctly, they paid more than $11 million in taxes just a few days before the deadline. And it sounds like if they hadn't, it would have gone off to a sheriff's sale.
Yeah, I have a vague memory of that just because all the ScareHouse folks were like watching the news to be like, okay, what's going to happen? Like, is our space, what's happening to our space? It was weird.
Yeah, so now apparently Namdar offered ScareHouse the chance to leave before their lease expired with a penalty. And Simmons, the co-owner, he owns it with his dad, felt like that was really the only option.
That sucks that it has to include a penalty. Pittsburgh Mills, of course, not the only mall in our area that's struggling. I hope that it doesn't go the way of Century 3, which I guess is gone now or very close to it.
Yeah, being demolished, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen a progress photo, I guess, today or yesterday. But I feel like our news sites are really doing the Lord's work here because they keep giving like overhead helicopter shots of the live demolition. Looks like it's just turning into this big gray brown crater kind of there on Route 51.
I wonder what's going to go there next.
I don't know, but there has been a lot of speculation. Even going back a little while, we did this whole episode last year about what went wrong with Century 3, like how the mall, like its whole genesis and how it like came to Pittsburgh to begin with.
It was once the third biggest mall in the world. So it really had a peak and then a real plummet.
Yeah. And then, that episode also had some ideas for its future. Some of them very silly because some of them were from Reddit. But it featured mall expert Matthew Newton.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes. It's definitely worth listening if you haven't for the Reddit ideas alone. But back to ScareHouse, for any Halloween lovers out there who like to plan ahead, even though their big elaborate haunted house won't open this fall, they are still hoping to host what they call their most extreme attraction, the basement, that theater experience Megan described, the stuff of Sophia's nightmares.
Where they touch you. Just know that that's where they touch you.
You do have to sign a form. You are forewarned. But yeah, they have not yet announced a new spot where they'll hold that.
Yeah, and I guess they still have space in the Strip District too, where they do escape rooms, usually seasonally. So like they're not open right now, but they never would be. So you don't have to go into full ScareHouse withdrawal.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people are upset about that. I have no thoughts and feelings. That is just one less place not to get too close to other people. But I'm sure there's other people like you, Megan, who'd really love it. But, and like Mallory said, if you like to plan Halloween way in advance, 2 ScareHouse actors actually came on the pod last year to share their favorite haunted attractions in and around Pittsburgh. So get your road trip ready now.
Yeah, we'll include that in the show notes.
So, Jens, as we head into the weekend, what will you each be thinking about? Sophia, you kick us off.
Yeah, I have a little brief update about where all the residents of 2nd Avenue Commons are going to be staying. A couple Fridays ago, we talked about how there was a fire at 2nd Avenue Commons, which is the major homeless shelter downtown. So folks were staying at the convention center temporarily, but now about 100 of our unhoused neighbors are going to be staying at the Reedsdale Center on the north side. So that's owned by Pittsburgh Mercy, and it sounds like other organizations like Light of Life also have space for a smaller number of people. But it's going to be months before 2nd Ave is open again. But a bit of joy among all of this, One Hood Media and Critical Care and Resistance hosted a Juneteenth celebration for people at the convention center, and a couple got married. So I thought that was really sweet.
Oh,
that's great.
Really nice.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, I love that. Well, speaking of Juneteenth, even though the actual holiday is over, it was on Wednesday, and the big celebration downtown already took place. There's still some more events coming up this weekend. Sharpsburg is having a celebration on Saturday, and Swissvale is doing their Juneteenth event on Sunday. And then looking ahead, the city is also putting on Fusion Fest on June 29th, which will have lots of art, local music, and food. So lots of opportunities to celebrate.
Yeah. And I'm sure those will also all be in our Hey Pittsburgh newsletter. We have many events.
They're already online. That's pittsburgh.citycast.fm/events.
Megan, you're so on top of it. What are you thinking about as you're headed into the weekend?
We talked about cannabis with Spotlight PA reporter Ed Mahan, mostly because of Ohio. They've got recreational cannabis coming online, fully legal, and we wondered if it would affect Pittsburgh at all. So we really encourage you to check that out. Obviously asked if there's any updates to legalization in PA. He said he wasn't expecting anything right away. But then a few days later, Representative Emily Kincaid, her district is part of Allegheny County, she shared plans to introduce and co-sponsor a bill. So she says it'll include some legalization efforts, details about how Pennsylvania farmers can grow here, and also there could be an expungement piece to all of this. So nothing like the Maryland governor clearing thousands of criminal charges, but it's something. Spotlight reports that it does not seem like it's going to get passed within this year's budget. The budget deadline is June 30th, but the session continues beyond that. So we will keep an eye out for more information. As soon as something pops, we will let you know.
Nice. And what about you, Mallory? What are you thinking about?
So this weekend is the groundbreaking for a memorial to the 11 people who were killed in the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting in 2018.
Yeah.
The synagogue is being rebuilt on the same site at Wilkins and Shady. If you've passed by it recently, you'll see part of the building has been demolished, but the main sanctuary with the big stained glass windows is still there. And this memorial will be part of the new site. I saw this nice detail in the Jewish Chronicle that this won't be a traditional groundbreaking because, usually you stick a shovel in the ground and you turn over dirt, and that just did not feel super appropriate. So instead, people are going to be smashing small glass houses. If you've ever been to a Jewish wedding, you know that it's tradition to smash glass. It's a way to acknowledge pain and loss, even in moments of joy. And then the glass that's broken at this ceremony will get made into mezuzot that will be placed in the doorways of the new building.
Wow.
That's also part of Jewish tradition. So it just feels like a really special way to incorporate Jewish traditions into the groundbreaking and then also ensure that it's respectful.
Absolutely. The mock-ups for the new building, the new space are just stunning. We shared them this week in the Hey Pittsburgh newsletter, and they're available online. We'll put another link in our show notes for that. It's just incredible. That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. If you're liking the show, we hope you might consider also supporting it financially. If you are interested in a membership to CityCast Pittsburgh, it gets you ad-free listening. And if you are not a fan of the You Might Like suggestions that are coming into your feed, signing up for a membership will make those go away. Thank you so much to a listener for writing in and asking us that question. We actually didn't know that, so we learned something from you. We learned something from our listeners and our readers all the time. Please keep writing into us. You can always ask us questions or send us suggestions, anything like that. Reach us via email, pittsburgh@citycast.fm. Our music is by Benji. Mallory Falk is our executive producer. Sophia Lo, Elizabeth Kama, and Francisco Kilgore produced the show. Kevin Gavin, Will Fulton, Natalia Aldana, and I all worked on that Hey Pittsburgh newsletter. And I am your host, Megan Harris. We'll be back on Monday with more news from around the city. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Water break.
I'm going to send you the clip of my child's little dumbbell that says that. It's exactly the same tone of voice.